Hey everyone, welcome back to White Sparrow Living, Luke 12:6. This is Wendy. Today is a Friend Friday hop hosted and created by my sweet friend Heidi over at HEIDI'S DIY. If you're new to the whole hop thing, down below in the description box is a link to the next channel in the hop, so when you're done here, head on over there, and when you're done there, head on over to the next one, and so on, creating a big old crafter's circle of inspiration. The next person in the hop is a surprise, but I know who it is, and you are going to love her. I'm so excited. If you're stopping by from the hop, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button down below, as well as the bell right next to it so that you can be notified every time I upload a brand new video. Also in the description box below are the details for my Cricut giveaway coming up on June 1st, so you're just in time to get entered into that. So without further ado, let's get started. For our first project, I'm going to be using this Easter sign. It's 13 1/4 by 9 1/2. This super cute black and white gingham block sign. This natural wood sign that came from the crafters section, as well as these little glass bottles. They come 6 in a pack, also in the crafters section. And another crafting item, this wood hanging heart, and it's super thick, it's really cute. And then some hydrangeas from the floral department. These are all Dollar Tree items. So if you guys have been watching my channel, you know I have been out of my Waverly white chalk paint and using substitutions. But my sweet viewer Becky Frazier in Texas sent me this. That was the last one in her Walmart. So thank you, Becky, so much. And then we'll also be using Waverly chalk paint and ink, as well as these 1-inch wood beads that I got from Amazon, and I'll have that listed in the description box below. Some Dollar Tree white string, some white chalk, a sanding sponge, and then my hot glue gun, scissors. I ended up not needing the screwdriver, but my needle nose pliers and my white paint pen I did use. And so the first thing I did was got my sign ready, and it was kind of messed up. The frame wasn't really all the way attached, and there was some glue where it should have been attached, but the middle part of the sign was off-centered too, so it needed new life. So to get my little sign ready, I just pulled out the staples with my needle nose pliers and got the jute twine hanger off, as well as the label. And then using my Waverly white chalk paint, I first painted the sides, and then I'll paint the front of the sign. And I'm telling you, I've used Krylon and Rust-Oleum chalk paint in white, but there is just nothing like the Waverly. It goes on so pretty, so smooth, and it dries super fast, and it only needs one coat of this. So again, to Becky, I am so appreciative of your sweet and thoughtful gift of sending this out to me. And I remember now why I love it so much. So now once it's dry, I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint and ink, aka black, and I'm going to take my fan brush and just kind of give it a distressing around the edges, and then over the top I'll just lightly dry brush around and over it. And then if you get too heavy-handed, I just go back in with my white again, and it kind of just acts like an eraser, so you can't mess this project up. So as much as I love the message, kitchens are made for families to gather, it was off center, so I still wanted to keep the black and white gingham intact, or some would call it mini buffalo check. So I just decided to turn it horizontally and then put my plaque over top so that you couldn't see the sign part. And so after I got it all nicely adhered, I'm going to take my little glass bottles and attach those using my hot glue. And I just put a bead in the back, and because it's clear, when you press it down, it's all flat and you can't see it. So I put the first one down in the middle and then eyeballed it to get them equidistant apart, and so that they're all nice and level. So then I took my little cork tops out, and I'll use those in a minute, but I'm going to take my hydrangeas and take off the leaves and then just stick the stems into each of those little bottles. I had forgotten to put my jute twine around the necks of each of those bottles, and after I got the first one down I remembered, but since it wasn't on that one I figured I'll just go ahead and move on without it. But I totally wanted it on there, so luckily there's a little lip and it was up just enough that I could thread the jute twine underneath the neck of those bottles and then tied a sweet little bow around each one of them. So then I took my Easter board and took out my jute twine hanger and pulled off the little bunny bow, and then I took my sandpaper and got all of the glitter off of the front of the board, and then I'm going to go in with my Waverly chalk paint in black and gave that 2 coats to make sure all of the colors of the Easter eggs were nice and covered and you couldn't see through it. And when I'm using chalk paint, I always like to go in the same direction. It doesn't matter if it's horizontal or vertical, but just as long as they're all the same. So then I'm going to take my sign and I'm going to attach that to the middle of the board, and I happened to get it right smack in the middle the first time when I just set it down. And then I took a pencil to mark where that center is, and then I'm going to attach it using my E6000 and my hot glue. And so another trick that a viewer taught me was to put hot glue at the end of your glue stick when you're getting ready to put it into the glue gun so that it doesn't fall out. And I knew I had to have a lot of glue so that I could work fast and get it all the way around this sign. Something else another viewer had taught me is to kind of do dotted lines of your E6000 and your glue so that they don't mix together, because I guess that's not a good thing and it probably doesn't hold as well. So I just went all the way around the very edge of the back of the sign and attached that to the board. And then I'm going to take some hot glue and attach my little corks to the bottoms of each of those bottles. And so those are going to act as little hangers. So then I took my jute twine and I just put some glue in a line on the back toward the sides, and I'm going to push that jute twine into the glue so that it stays, and then I'm going to wrap it around 6 times, kind of crisscross and just not straight. And that'll work for 2 reasons: 1, to cover up the little holes, and then 2, to be cute. And then actually a third thing that it's going to do that I didn't know it was going to do until I ran into a little problem was be the holder for my hanger part that is going to be how we hang the sign. So when I was wrapping this one side, this Dollar Tree jute twine will sometimes have different thicknesses to it, and there was a piece that really just looked way too thick and matted, so I cut that off in the back and then just tied another piece so that I took out that matted part and then just kept wrapping. But when I tied it together, it gave me the idea to use that as the part of the hanger that I would then tie to the top and then tie to the other side. So it was a trifecta win. So most of you know that I listen to my worship music while I'm crafting, and I knew I wanted something at the top of my sign, but I wasn't sure what. And then the song by Danny Gokey called Love God, Love People was playing, and so I figured that was God's way of telling me what I needed to put on this sign. So I printed it out in 3 different font sizes because I wasn't sure what size would fit at the top. And so I rubbed my chalk on the back, and then I'm going to cut it apart and then place it at the top where I want it to be and tape it down. And then I'm going to go over it with my pencil so that I can have those words transferred onto my black board with the chalk, and then I'll use my paint pen to go back over it. I have a complete tutorial on how to transfer words if you don't have a cutting machine, or in my case, if you don't want to pull it down. And so I'll have that video linked in the description box below if you're interested. But I really love this song and this message because he's referring to Matthew 22 verses 36 through 40, and it's actually in 3 out of the 4 Gospels, but it says, "Teacher, which commandment in the law is the greatest?" He said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment, and a second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these 2 commandments hang all the law and the prophets." So this is Danny Gokey's way of keeping it simple, as the song goes, and saying to love God and love people. So now I'm going to take this wooden heart and pull out the jute twine and take off the sticker, and I'm going to paint that again with my glorious Waverly white chalk paint. And sometimes I forget, but it's easiest if you paint the outside rims first, and then you have a way of holding it, and then you can set it down and paint the top. So now I'm going to make a tassel, and I just took my white string and wrapped it around my 4 fingers 10 times, and then I'm going to take another piece and tie it at the top in a knot, and then I'm going to take all of those pieces and kind of grab them together and get them all nice and tidy, and then I'll take a 3rd piece and wrap that around to make it look like a tassel. And then I'll take my scissors and cut the loops at the bottom so that they're all hanging down, and then I'll grab them all together and give it a little haircut so that it's even all the way across. So now I'm going to take a needle and thread my string through it so that I can put 3 beads onto one side, and then I'm going to go back and work on my heart by dry brushing again with my Waverly chalk paint in black or ink. And then after I put the black down, I'm going to go back in with my white just to soften it up a little bit. And then I decided, since the font I used at the top for the words was in the Ray Dunn style, and that's the skinny, which I downloaded from defont.com, I thought I would make a Ray Dunn inspired cross. So I just put that on there and then tied it up and hooked it onto the middle cork. And here it is all done, and I am superly in love with this. And I love gingham so much, but I think this is so cute and has a great message, is super farmhouse, and cost a total of about $6. So I love it, and I hope you guys love it too. And I hope you love God and love people. So as most of you know, I am now a grandmother to 3 beautiful babies. And so since the quarantine, I know everybody has had to do things a little differently, but it was Carson's 5th birthday on the 15th. And so we had to conform to our new circumstances. And so I thought you guys would like to see exactly how we celebrated my sweet grandson.
Oh, they're so cute! Cute! Oh my god! Cute! I totally didn't get that.
Great, I got it.
Go get it, baby! Oh my gosh, this is so cute! Look at this! Say thank you! Baby, yeah! They're so cute! Thank you! Thank you! There's a baby! That's so cute! Look how cute! Oh my goodness! How cute! Oh, so sweet! Oh my goodness! You guys are so cute! Hi, bud! Say hi! Thank you! Oh, so cute! Do you see that, Bubba? The happy birthday! Bye! Oh, the little baby! So sweet! Yay, Bubba! Yeah, wait. Make a wish.
No fit.
Hyperventilate. Good job.
You guys, I just can't watch that without crying. It's so cute. But anyway, okay, so for this one, we had cake in the last clip. We have a bread pan, a brownie pan, and a cookie pan. And now I want some baked goods. We have 2 glasses. These are Happy New Year glasses. And then some Rust-Oleum paint in white. And then some black chalk paint or ink, okay. And then my glue gun, E6000, and a pencil. And so I first measured to see how tall I wanted this to be. Originally, I was going to use some candle holders, or a candle holder that I was cutting in half and it was broken, and so I was going to use that. But I couldn't ever get it completely flat, and so it didn't work out. So I ended up not using those and going with the glasses. So in the old days, Dollar Tree used to have those rolling pins, and they were made out of a wood of some sort. And so those worked perfectly, but these were a fail. So anyway, I painted these and gave them about 3 coats of the white spray paint. And then I went to get my glasses ready, once I decided to use them. And so first I tried acetone, and that did not work. And so I'm assuming because the glasses would go through the dishwasher, so it was extra strength paint or whatever this was. But then I tried my scraper. It still wouldn't come off. The 2020 kind of came off, just the rough edges of it, or the rough surface, but it was not coming off. Then I even took my utility knife. I took a razor blade. These were not budging. Cars should be painted in whatever this was, and I feel like it was reverse alien technology or something. So anyway, I just went with it, and even when I spray painted the glasses, it was hard to even cover those up, so I turned it toward the back. Anyway, now I'm going to take my ink chalk paint and use my Dollar Tree sponge brush, and I'm just going to rub along the sides of all of my pans, and I'm giving it the enamel wear look. And so the easiest way to do this is to pour your paint out into a plate, and then that way you can get your sponge all nice and juicy and then just drag it around the edges. I always wait to make the little chips and marks how enamelware has in authentic enamelware. I wait to do that until the end because chances are I might have a messed up edge or somewhere where I went out of the lines or whatever the case may be, but then I'll use that as a place for my chip marks. And the reason I chose these 3 pans was because I really like the square look or rectangular look of trays, but also each of these, even though they're different sizes and depths, they all have that same look on the ends where the handles are. And so that kind of makes them unified even though they're different. But I love the look of this shape instead of just the traditional round trays that we see more often. So this is always the hard part. First of all, you have to get the riser right in the middle of your pan, and it was a little bit easier because it was square, so I just measured and got it as close to the center as I could, and then I'm going to trace around it with my pencil, and then I'm going to go in with my E6000 and my hot glue. And because the cup has such a small thin rim at the top, which is in this case at the bottom, I tried to get it as close to the inside as I possibly could so that there wasn't so much seepage. There will be some, but it wasn't too bad. So now to fill this, I found this adorable Fresh Eggs Daily sign and this even more adorable little creamer pitcher. And then I'm also going to use 4 of these foam dice and then some scrap cotton pieces. And the one that's on top of the leaf is actually from Dollar Tree in a piece that I had from before. And this other Farm Sweet Farm super cute sign, and it kind of broke my heart to cover over him, but I had other plans, and so I just took my black chalk paint and painted just the inside. I didn't worry about masking it, and I just did it by hand because it's going to be kind of covered up anyway. So I just covered the entire back portion, and then the cutout of the cow on top had some of that teal, which is a beautiful color, by the way. And so I just covered that up too so that there was no color showing once I get it on my tray. So I just took some scrap lamb's ear and hot glued that to the backing of the little sign inside and outside of the frame and let it overlap. And I get this lamb's ear from Walmart, and it comes in quite a large bunch, and it's only $2. So it's a really good buy for super pretty greenery. And so then I took 3 of these cotton buds and put them in there, hot glued those down, and then added a couple more of the lamb's ear. And somebody told me that these are called cotton bowls. I think that's what they said. So anyway, whatever they are, they're cutie patootie. I hope you guys don't get tired of tassels because all 3 of today's projects have tassels involved. So in this case, I took a chenille stem and put it on the outside of the sanding sponge and then wrapped my jute twine around 30 times because I wanted this one to be longer and a little more bulky. So I took my chenille stem and wrapped it around the top, and then I took my scissors, and because this is a sponge, you can get the blade in there to cut it. And then I went through the same process of wrapping another piece around towards the top to make it look like a tassel. For some reason, these were all out of control and curled up, I think because I was taking it from inside of the jute twine roll. And so I ended up taking my hair straightener and making those flatter. So then I took my beads and fed on a total of 11, and then took my chenille stem where they met and twisted it and then cut them off, and then took the little pieces that were left over and kind of tucked them into the holes of the beads. So I'm going to be painting the beads black to go with our black and white themed tray, and so that's why I used a black chenille stem. So I just took my chalk paint and painted them and got those all nice and matte black. And since I had the black paint out, I decided to paint my dice at the same time. So I'm just going to use a big fat, this is actually an Annie Sloan brush, and it covers so nicely and super quick because this was small and the brush was so large. It takes 2 coats to cover these dice though, so that you don't see the little dots. But once I got it on, I'm going to wait for that to dry completely, and then I'm going to go back in with my white chalk paint and give it somewhat of a distressed look around the edges and then across the flat parts with kind of a streaky look. So apparently I forgot to show you guys the package of wooden letters from Dollar Tree, but I just took the letters to spell out farm, and I'm going to paint those completely white, and then I'm going to go back in with my black paint pen and do the enamel wear look again on the little letters, and then I'm going to attach each of those to one of the dice so that it spells out farm. And here's the whole thing all put together, and can I just tell you how much I am in love with this? I know I say that about everything, but this is one of my favorites. I love how farmhouse it is and how clean and crisp the whites are against the black, and having it all monochromatic where it's all one color except for the greenery, which just takes it to a whole other level. I just love how this turned out. And I hope when I say how much I love something that I've made that you don't think I'm being boastful, because I think any kind of gifts that we're given, we know that they're from God. So it's not our own doing, but I do love how this turned out, and I think God would like it too. For our final project, we'll be doing an upcycle using these 2 suitcases, these 4 plastic feet from my daughter's old bed, some burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree, some jute twine, some more of the 1-inch wooden beads, about 4 cans of Rust-Oleum spray paint in white, my black Sharpie paint pen, some blue painter's tape, my handy dandy drill with a 3/8 inch bit, my hot glue gun, my scissors, and a screwdriver. And so the first thing I did was got them all cleaned up and wiped down, and they're super cute, and they're actually pretty special because my cousin's wife, which I call her my cousin too, she got them from her grandma who had moved into an assisted living facility. So she knew that I like to craft and I love all things vintage. So she just gifted them to me, and I thought that was so sweet. So this was something I really wanted to make beautiful out of respect for her grandma. So what I did was I took them outside and started spray painting them, and this would have been a great time to have a big jug of Waverly White chalk paint, because the spray paint, and it was a little bit windy, so that did have something to do with it, but it took 4 cans to get a pretty good coverage, and I could still see some areas where it could have taken even more. So in between coats, I had a lot of time to kill, so I decided to take my burlap ribbon, and I really wanted this to have stripes on it, and I wanted that old farmhouse looking stripe. Originally, I was just going to paint it onto the suitcases, but I wanted to bring in that burlap brown and make it like straps from the old trunks that you used to see back in the old days. So I just took my paint pen and started making lines. I could have done a better job as far as getting it straighter, but I figured since this was going to be kind of vintage looking, that it would be okay to be a little crookedy. But it worked so well, and the lines of the burlap, even though it's not really burlap, but it makes it kind of look like burlap, if you kind of just let your pen go along those lines, you can get pretty straight lines. So if you have ribbon that's just solid and you want something striped, this is a great way to update the ribbon that you have for whatever project you're making. So after about 70 coats of paint, I finally got it done and took off my masking, and I only left the latches in the silver. So now I'm going to take my little feet and measure where I want them, and then I'm going to make a pencil mark inside of the foot, and that's where I'll drill my hole. And then once I drill my hole, I'm going to stick my bolt through and then screw my nut on from the other side. So now I'm going to take my ribbon and I folded it over so that I would have a clean edge, and then I hot glued that to the back of the lid, and then I wrapped it all the way around the top, hot glued that down, and then glued it to the inside of the lid in the front so that I could have a separate piece and you'd still be able to open and close the lid. So because I'm going to be stacking these suitcases, the top one I want propped open a bit, and so I'm going to have plants in there, but in case any of the blue part peeks through, I don't want that to show. So I'm just taking a piece of fabric and I'm going to hot glue that into the top portion so that it coordinates just in case it shows. So it's tassel time again, and so I think you guys know by now how to do this. I've shown it to you 3 different ways, but whatever your project is, you can make it work for whatever kind of look that you're going for. In this case, I'm going to do a straight row of beads, and then I'm going to add a medallion from the Dollar Tree just to give it weight because I want this to hang out of the suitcase. And so once I get it done, I'll tie the medallion to the end and then slip that into the suitcase so it's not even going to show, but it's still super cute. It's just that it's pink and I can't have pink showing. So then I just took 2 faux ferns that I got from Walmart a long time ago, and I just placed them inside, and then to prop open my lid, I took a white painted paint stick and just tucked it in there, and that kept it open. And then I tucked in my little beaded garland and let that hang out, put it on top of the larger one, and here's how it turned out. And guess what? I love this. It's so pretty. I love the white with the greenery, of course, but I really love the look of that ribbon. I know it's not perfect, but I think it just adds that element of imperfection. And maybe that's just an excuse for my crookedy lines, but I love this. I think it's super sweet, and it goes perfectly in between my 2 accent chairs. And so I love it, and I hope you guys like it too. I hope you enjoyed this video, and now you just have to hit the link down below to head on over to the next channel. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, comment, share, like, subscribe, hit everything. But most importantly, have a blessed day, and remember to always be the light. Bye.